السلام عليكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي أشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome, dear friends. Inshallah, we will continue with the study of the 24th word. We're studying how to basically benefit from the hadith narrations. So last time we discussed about, in the 10th principle, the universality principle, in terms of there are certain hadith narrations that mention that the reward system would be this big compared to, in terms of what you do. So although the possibility is there, right? So that's what we need to understand. For example, we looked at the example of backbiting, which kind of reminds us and gives, like, it's like a murder. That's kind of the hadith narration, right? So it kind of brings our attention to the seriousness and the severity of how harmful it is to our being to backbite or just to gossip around for no reason about something. Just more harmful than deadly poison, like a killer. So all these hadith narrations basically are also meant to give us reminders again and again so that we can have a balanced life. So we'll continue with this 10th principle because we kind of stopped here. So again, so here, in order to encourage and restrain, so that's the point of the way the hadith narrations, in their analogies, similes, in the way the structure that they use that need to be interpreted. So you cannot really read them literally. So the point is to encourage and restrain me and everyone who is listening to the message of the Prophet. So it points out the possibility of that indefinite, perfect individual being present everywhere in absolute form as though it is actually the case. Thus arousing eagerness for good and disgust for evil. Furthermore, the things of the eternal world cannot be measured on the scale of this world. Yeah, because this world, the created world, is very different. That's how our conclusion must be to what is the next world. Right? So the eternal world definitely cannot be the way that I'm experiencing, the subject to change and just things being ephemeral. I'm losing many things. So definitely I want happiness, satisfaction that would last, that is permanent, that is eternal. Right? So any reward that I get it, I experience it for a certain time frame, and then things change, situations change. Right? So anything that I receive in this world is just samples, but then there is an aspect of them to the eternal realm, eternal world. So the greatest thing here is not equal to the least thing there. The greatest thing here is not equal to the least thing there. Because the merits of actions look to that world. So whatever we do here, the merits of those actions, basically they have the meaning in the next world. So they look to the next world, to that world. Our worldly view is narrow for them. We cannot fit them into our minds. For example, whoever reads this is given the reward of Moses and Aaron or Harun. Whoever reads this is given the reward of Moses and Aaron. That is to say, all praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth, sustainer of all the worlds. His is the might in the heavens and the earth, and he is the mighty, the wise. All praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth, sustainer of all the worlds, and his is the sublimity in the heavens and the earth, and he is the mighty, the wise, and his is the dominion, sustainer of the heavens, and he is the mighty, the wise. So whoever realizes these qualities, praising the Lord of the universe, is getting the reward of what Moses and Aaron are getting. So it's like an analogy or similarity in terms of that. Right? So realizing, so basically praising the Lord as much as one can. In Nagakunta Bina Basira, for example, all as much as we can. All praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth. So keep realizing who this Lord is, sustaining the heavens, my being, everything, all beings, all the world. Whatever qualities, power, knowledge, wisdom that we see is his might, his glory, qualities of mighty and wise. All right. So what has at most attracted the attention of the unfair and the unthinking is narrations like these. So such narrations that if you read this, you will get the reward of given to Moses and Aaron. So the unfair and unthinking, so it bothers, these kind of narrations are bothersome to those who don't really get the message, exactly what these narrations are saying, because they're trying to understand this literally in a way. The reality of the matter is this: with our narrow mind and short views in this world, we know how much we imagine the rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, to be. Oh yeah, how much we imagine the rewards of Moses and Aaron to be, peace be upon them. The reward the absolutely compassionate one will give to one of his infinitely needy servants, worshippers in the world of eternity and everlasting happiness, in return for a single invocation, may be equal to the reward of those two but equal to the rewards as we conceive of them and surmise them to be. All right, so for example, there is a primitive, uncouth man who has never seen the king and does not know the majesty of his rule. He imagines a lord in a village and, with his limited ideas, thinks of the king as a more exalted version of the Lord. Long ago with us even there was a simple-minded tribe who used to say, "Our Lord knows what the Sultan does as he cooks his bulgur soup on his stove in a saucepan." That is to say, they imagined the Sultan in such a narrow situation and so common a form that he cooked his own wheat soup. They supposed him to have the majesty of a captain. Now, if someone was to say to one of that tribe, "If you do this work for me today, I'll give you as much majesty as you think the Sultan has, and give you a rank as high as a captain." To say that is right because of the majesty of kingship, what enters the narrow bounds of his ideas is only the majesty of a captain. Thus, with our worldly views and narrow minds, so we need to expand our understanding, our views, and our minds. We cannot think as much as that primitive man of the true rewards which look to the hereafter. It is not the equivalent of the true rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, for according to the rule of similes and comparisons, the unknown is compared to the known. The true reward which is unknown for an invocation of one of God's believing servants is compared with the rewards that we know and surmise. Moreover, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal when it comes to holding the complete reflection of the sun. The difference is only in quality. The nature of the reward reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, is exactly the same in nature as the reward that a believing servant, who is like a droplet, receives from a Quranic verse. They are the same in nature and quantity, while their quality is dependent on capacity. So how much I am basically paying attention, using my human senses, my abilities to recognize the truth of the message. Yes, Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I am just, no, okay. Now, there is a major understanding, in fact, misunderstanding of reading the Quran, whether it is in original text or in translation, regardless, the same. When we read the Quran, it says, say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, or as it is in this hadith narration, whoever reads this is given or says this is given a reward of Moses and Aaron. Now, when we say, okay, let me read it. All praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth, sustainer of all the worlds. He is mighty in the heavens and the earth, and he is the mighty, the wise. Okay. I'm done. Where is my reward? Why? I read it. And I mean, the Quran says, say, for example, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And that's it. This is the almost all the crux of the Quran. You got it. La ilaha illallah. And and know this. Sorry, confusing language. So know this. Okay, I know La ilaha illallah. That's it. I'm done. There is no need to read the Quran because I got the message. That's it. Now we have to understand that body is a means in this world for us to be used. Language is a means to express it. How we use our body and what our tongues say, utter, depends on what I have in my spirit, what I have in my intellect, mind, understanding, perception. So Quran says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Now I said, هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. That is what tongue says. But Quran doesn't speak to tongue. Quran speaks to our spirit. Quran speaks to our mind, intellect. So Quran says, think about it. Deliberately reflect on it, ponder this subject, this matter. Assimilate it in your spirit, so it should come out of your tongue in your utterances, whatever the capacity you had in your intellect, in your mind, in your spirit, how much you assimilate it with your spirit, that much value your utterances of your tongue will have. Now, when we don't read that, for example, Hadith narration says, say this when you are in this position. It means definitely all Hadith narrations, especially prayers of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, refers to as the source of the subject, whatever the matter is discussed there, refers to Allah, the Rabbul Alameen. So, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ visits the sick people suffering from a kind of illnesses, and he says, in one of the narrations I read, for example, he said, ask the patient to say, La shifa'a illa mink. It's a very simple sentence, so that the patient who is already suffering in pain cannot say lines and lines of spirit prayers and cannot keep in his mind as a prophetic following the prophetic wisdom, he offers him a very short sentence, even not a sentence. La shifa'a illa ant. There is no shifa but only from you. That's it. That everybody knows from you means Allah. So, okay, I said it finished. No. I mean, the person's psychological situation and pains or whatever he is suffering from is different. But we have to understand that the Prophet is really offering him to digest, to assimilate what this phrase tells. There is no other cure, but only from God. God is the Shafi, illa ant. Only you, O my Creator, O my Rab, Lord. So to understand that, yes, while you are doing something to gain your health back, but never forget these are just employees of the Creator. In fact, without the will of the Creator, this means that you are taking, we call them now medicine. They must have their own medicine that time, not the chemical medicines, but other medicines. So don't say that these things are, don't expect that these things are going to give me health. Allah will give through creating these things. So this consciousness, to keep this consciousness, not say that still thinking, if I take this, it will cure me, but your tongue says, La shifa'a illa mink. It doesn't represent anything. When we read the Quran, say, Hadith narrations say, we have to understand that whatever is to be said, offered to us to be said, to understand the content of it and accordingly say it. But while you are trying to understand the content of the sentence or phrase, say it, your tongue will say it, but try to think about it, reflect about it, what it means. So if it comes from your tongue, it has no value. But it should come from my tongue in order to enable me to think about the content of the phrase and as much as I can. I believe if I really understand and conceive the meaning and assimilate it with my feelings of this prayer, all praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth, sustainer of all the worlds, so on, so forth. I believe if I really assimilate it with me and live by it, whatever I can imagine that Moses and Aaron, the prophets, received prophet reward. These prophets received the reward from God according to the capacity of my understanding of their reward level. I will be given. Again, I will be given this reward according to the capacity of my perception of the content of these sentences here. So that is why the author is saying, how much you think of Aaron had reward from God, that much you will receive it, according to how much you understood and really assimilated it, confirmed and assimilated within yourself the content of these sentences I taught you, extending and confirmation, being convinced about the content of these sentences, you will be given the reward. And that I believe definitely it is correct. But if only I shouldn't say that to say, for example, say this sentence and you are okay. You are done. You will be rewarded as much as a prophet did is not the way to read the Quran and Hadith at all. Inshallah, we will take just you guess you know this, but I wanted to emphasize on it. Thank you.
Jazakallah for very clear explanation. Alhamdulillah. May Allah make it, yeah, so that we can easy for us to digest this and from our own for ourselves, inshallah. Thank you. Okay, so we will continue. Say it with meaning pertaining to my existence. I mean, yes, clearly stated. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Also, yeah, also on that point, basically, yeah, mostly the ones who are like educated in the jurisprudential matters, that's how they kind of present it mostly, right? And then it doesn't give many people, like the simple minded general public doesn't really think much, and the many who are thinking would say, hey, how is this possible? That's why it doesn't. So we have to really pay attention to what these actually indicate. So, for example, Brother Lee gave the example of La ilaha illallah and really feeling that within ourselves and our feelings. Of course, that makes a whole world of difference. Yes, Fariha, go ahead.
At the same time, I think we are all in need of spiritual fuel. So the more hungry we feel about something, the more any remedy or solution will help us get satiated. So same thing with these like the remembrance or the zikr, the wordings that points to the qualities of the source of my existence in this universe that we observe, for example, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Allah, right? All of this, like we're all in need of compassion, we're all in need of mercy. So the more we feel this hunger or in need of love, Ya Wudud, the more we express this out, it's really like a need of the human being, or really the condition of the heart, if you will, then it deems to be more fruitful, inshallah. Because I think connecting it back also to this morning's discussion about the salawat, the acknowledgement of how did I get this understanding of what this universe points to. It was presented to me by an envoy, a caliph, a human being who exhausted himself to really connect with the purpose of the human existence. And so even when reading something, even like any verse from the Quran or within these discussions, if a meaning is imparted onto us, then we say, oh yeah, this makes sense, alhamdulillah or subhanallah, but then we're expressing our our excitement, but then to who or to what would be the biggest question. Oh, to the source of my existence. And at the same time, we got to extend this out to close the circle in terms of also let me thank the vehicle or the person through which I received this message. So hence the salawat, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, super excited for sharing this message with humanity. I think that's really the awareness that at least, inshallah, we all need to work on.
Inshallah, thank you for sharing that. Right. Okay, so we can continue. Also, it sometimes happens that a single word, a single glorification, opens a treasury of happiness that was not opened with 60 years of service. So Fariha gave the example of Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah. Right? So a single word can open a treasury of happiness. That is to say, it sometimes happens that a single verse may be as beneficial as the whole Quran. Also, the divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse. So the meaning that this divine speech may have been as much as all the effulgence one of the other prophets received. And it would not be contrary to the truth if it is said that a believer who through the legacy of prophethood manifests the shadow of the greatest name, receives in accordance with his own capacity and in regard to quantity a reward as great as a prophet's effulgence. Furthermore, reward and merit are from the world of light. So they're coming from God. And one world from that world may be contained in a speck. Just as the heavens and all its stars may appear in a tiny fragment of glass, so luminous reward and merit like heavens may be situated in an invocation or verse which acquires transparency through pure intention. So a single word with our reflections, our feelings in them can make a world of difference in our feelings, our satisfaction. So the realization how much we are, as Faria said, about how hungry we are for those qualities, for something, for meaning, that much we will see the reward in our being. Fariha, go ahead.
So if I'm trying to understand this analogy that's presented about just as the heavens and all its stars may appear in a tiny fragment of glass, so luminous reward and merit like the heavens may be situated in an invocation or verse which acquires transparency through pure intention. Again, starting with the human need, but the thing is that it gets veiled by worldly concerns at the end of the day. any kind of situation we could be in, psychological issue, disturbance, or something. I mean, it all boils down to really what's the point of all this? Because I mean, to me, the way I'm understanding the reward and merit is really, I need peace in terms of understanding what this universe points to. I need contentment in terms of understanding sometimes psychological distress that we go through. And so the understanding shouldn't just be at the vertical level, because it does not help. It's going to emerge again. We need solutions, or we need something like an understanding that goes beyond the confines of this universe, pretty much like a vertical connection. And so even a tiny fragment of glass, like if I can see like the within all, I'm just thinking of it like you have a pile of paper, and underneath that pile of paper is like something like, I don't know, a pen you're looking for. But if you know that, hey, that is the pen that I'm looking for, the pile of paper is just like an excuse, or just as part of the order in creation, where I need to dig deeper to get the pen. Even if I get the pen or not, at least I know that that's the pen I'm looking for. So then connecting this to the analogy, like the real meaning of things, the understanding of anything, any situation I'm in, then that's really the luminous reward and merit, if that makes sense. And that's from the world of light, in the words of the author, meaning that it's light imparted onto us about this universe is not it. I mean, this universe is just a means for all of us to get to know who am I as a created being, and who my creator is, and what all this point to. So once I know who my creator is, then at least I can go somewhere with it, and not just be stuck within the confines of this universe, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. That made sense. Yeah, so this analogy is basically in terms of not the quantity, but the quality, as you kind of shared as well. Right, so stars and tiny fragments. So tiny doesn't matter, but as much as the message that you get, how big. So for example, one single word opens a treasury, which even 60 years of service may not have opened. So the quality is the focus, I think, in this paragraph. Your hand is up. Do you want to continue?
Maybe I'll just add on something. I didn't want to continue, but like, if we think about it, I was like really reflecting on these hadith narrations. It's really helping us reorient our psychological state as well, because that's the human psyche that the message of the Quran pretty much speaks to, and that's the human psyche that gets triggered or affected by everything that we experience. So going back to what Brother Lee was saying about assimilating the meaning into the spirit, I think that's what the hadiths help us with, reorient the condition of our spirit, like directing the needle at least in the right direction.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? So we'll go to the conclusion of this 10th principle. O unfair, unthinking, self-centered, cavilling man, whose belief is weak and philosophy strong. Consider these 10 principles Then do not make the pretext of a narration you thought was contrary to the truth and definitely opposed to reality. So any hadith narration of the Prophet you thought was contrary to the truth and definitely opposed to reality. And point the finger of objection at hadiths, thus casting aspersions on the noble messengers, peace and blessings be upon him, sinlessness. Because firstly, these 10 principles and what they entail will make you forego denial. They say if there is any real fault, it is ours. It may not be referred to the hadiths. They say too, if the fault is not real, it springs from your misunderstanding. In short, if one embarks on denial and rejection, one first has to deny these 10 principles and show them to be false. Now, if you are fair after pondering over these 10 principles with due attention, do not attempt to deny a hadith your reason considers contrary to the truth. Say there is either an explanation or an interpretation or an exegesis of this and do not criticize it. All right. Any thoughts on the conclusion or anything that you thought we need to discuss? Yes, Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Although I am sure you mentioned, I remember hearing from you saying that the quantity is important, quality is important, not the quantity. And I think in one very end of one of the paragraphs we studied, something like this paragraph we read before conclusion, the previous paragraph ends with they are the same in nature and quantity, while their quality is dependent on capacity. That's the key point to me. When, for example, the Quran mentions about time, day, especially the word day is very frequently used in the Quran. And giving numbers, these are like, as an example, I wanted to really understand it and make it very simple to understand and remember for us. For example, if someone says, if you do this work, I will give you 10 paper bills, dollars. Okay. $10 paper bills, but in terms of dollars. Of course, there are paper bill which is worth $1. There are also $100, maybe more. So I understand the capacity is like what is this one paper bill represents. The $1 value or $100 value, which one? That depends on my capacity. That is why in this paragraph, again, the shadow of the greatest name, the following paragraph, middle of the following paragraph, a believer says who through the legacy of prophethood manifests the shadow of the greatest names. Yeah, I got it, yes. receives in accordance with his own capacity. And in regard to quantity, and reward is as great as prophet's effulgence. So our capacity is important, what we understand from it. And also our understanding of the time is important. At which scale we understand when the Quran talks about numbers, gives numbers. For example, in such and such war conditions, we sent them. In one verse, it says 1,000 angels. The other one says 3,000. If I'm not mistaken, in another one says 5,000 angels for their help, for the believer's help. Of course, it depends on my capacity. If I am let's say, my value of my courage is, of course, it is not countable, obvious, but we have to make it easy. Let's say 10 degree. I will understand the angel who's coming to my hand within my capacity. 10 degree. But if a person like Imam Ali, 5,000 degree, he will understand the angel, the help of angel will come him, it will come to the believers, will have each of them 5,000 degree of power. So we cannot say that 5,000 angels, what are they going to do? With what capacity depends on my capacity, in accordance with my own capacity. That's what we have understand. For example, if I understand from the day as sunset and sunrise, and again come back to sunset is one day. Okay, I understand 5,000 days in this term. But if I understand, oh, this is just not the day, day is really the turning of the sun, the earth, globe of earth around the sun is one day as far as the earth life is concerned. It means one day means 1 year for this man. That is why we cannot really specifically talk about these numbers and physical descriptions of the Quran and physical descriptions of hadith narrations. That is one point that we have to be careful. According to my capacity, my own capacity, my perception will be limited to my capacity. I should never forget this point. Another subject that I wanted to deal with you, which attracted my attention, I put some signs for me that this is very important. This is very important at the end of conclusion, very at the end of conclusion. Now, it says, there is, say, don't reject the hadith narration, okay? Say, there is either an explanation or an interpretation or an exegesis of this, and do not criticize it. What does it mean? Of course, it sounds wonderful as we read it. Okay, I don't understand. I don't agree because of my capacity cannot really digest it, or for other reason. But usually, what really confuses our mind is about the criticism of the authenticity of the hadith. Now, first of all, we have to get over the authenticity of hadith problem. and then think about an hadith, if this hadith is authentic, as far as the critics of hadith readings are concerned, all the hadith scholars agreed that this is an authentic hadith. Okay, I have no way to reject it, right? Then, when I read the hadith narrated in Bukhari, agreed by all hadith critics. So when I read it, I say, what does it mean? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to be true. Now, so we have to definitely take it in this way. That's what I do. That's my suggestion. Okay. Authenticity problem must be overcome like this. First of all, hadith scholars are experts on the subject, and I'm not. I have nothing to do with expertise of the hadith narrations. So I cannot challenge them because I don't know. Okay, but using my own human reasoning, I say it doesn't make sense to me. All right, according to my capacity, again, we should never forget. But the community of hadith scholars somehow agreed that it should be regarded as an hadith. And it became a part of Muslim community as a part of the civilization, understanding, lifestyle of this community. So we have to take into consideration the capacity of the community, Muslim community. Nowadays they talk about billion. So billion people received this and somehow generally accepted it, knowingly or unconsciously or unconsciously. So I have to interpret it and explain it within the capacity of the community. If I think that I am a little bit above the average level of the community, which is questionable. But if we think in this way, so according to the capacity of the community, we understand that majority of the community are really uneducated in Islam, included myself. Not really educated and not really aware of what is going on, Islamic narrations or narratives, anything to do with Islam. Just hearing a piece and pieces here and there. But still, I have to say with a good intention, look, what is the capacity of the general body of this community are usually superficially accepting it and understanding it only through physical examples. Only through physical examples. That is why the physical description of the things may be accepted by the people, but the reality of the narration, the content of the narration may not represent this. It may represent another level so that the general body don't understand and take it literally. So don't deny because of this literal understanding of the communities. Let me put my sentence. Literal understanding of the communities of an hadith doesn't represent the content of the hadith. So it needs to be explained, interpreted, and I understand, I don't understand anything more than exegesis means interpretation as far as, but in great exegesis is here used as tafsir. It means in great detail interpretations, in great detail. Exegesis is maybe used here next to it. So I have to think about it with a good intention. This hadith may refer to this, but people took it superficially and literally, according to their capacity. So have a good intention about the hadith narrations, although people may say that it's a fabricated hadith. If it is a fabricated hadith, why do you think an expert, hadith expert, has relied on it and narrated it? Do you think these people had a bad intention? I mean, no one can have any sign of it. So we have to have an open heart about this in a hadith narration, because it is narrated by a scholar, and this scholar, all the scholars, hadith scholars, who are regarded by the Muslim community as respectful people, and they have not received any criticism about their personality, that this man is an hypocrite, cheating people, for example. That is beyond the argument, or that is beyond the doubt. Everybody accepts that they are sincere, but these sincere people narrated it. There must be a reason. That is why, if a person tells you that, but this narration, this narration doesn't seem to be authentic, because some hadith critics said this is not really true. We have to bear in mind another information again, just information. Every hadith scholar has different criteria to check the authenticity of the hadith. So according to one of the hadith scholars, it may not fit according to his criterion, but it may fit according to another hadith expert's criterion. That's why it is narrated. So have a good intention. If someone said this is not an authentic hadith, it is just fabricated hadith, it doesn't mean that it is fabricated hadith. As long as a hadith narration accepted by the Muslim community as especially 6 main hadith books according to Sunni tradition, and there are other main hadith books narrated and accepted Shia tradition. These books are accepted by billions of people with a good intention. Of course, the criterion changes. Then as the criterion used by scholars changed according to this scholar, these hadiths are labeled as sahih hadith. It means agreed upon hadith, or fabricated hadith. There are also single hadith narrations, marfu hadith. There are lots of terminologies, lots of terminologies in hadith. I don't know. I read them. I was amazed at how many different terminologies hadith literature used, which we are not aware of it. Those people are aware of it, and accordingly they use it. So it is related what Fariha wrote. I will read it. Is there a criteria that we can all agree, or impossible? Impossible. That is personal. That is personal according to its capacity of expertise. We don't know. But usually use what is most highly regarded by the Muslim community. Bukhari, Muslim, is most highly regarded on the Sunni side of Muslim community. Other books are, for example, the famous Qummi, hadith scholar, regarded as the best hadith narrator by the Shiite community. I have nothing to say, but this is personal. So criterion, for example, someone reads an ayah in the Quran, we have to understand, and he understands the ayah according to his capacity. And we cannot say that what is the best or look for the best capacity to understand the Quran. We cannot make this judgment. Impossible. That is, everybody is responsible for himself. Depends on, isn't the validity of a hadith redundant to our understanding of it? Yes. But if you are an expert, is that the point? Yeah, if you are an expert. If you are not an expert, you just take what is presented to you and get or accept what satisfies you. If something doesn't satisfy you, reject it. If, for example, you read an Bukhari, a hadith in Bukhari, this is the most respected book in Sunni tradition. You read it, but it may not appeal to you. You say, okay, as the author says here, there must be a way of explaining it, but I don't know. Or there must be an interpretation of it, but I don't know. And there must be a tafsir, exegesis of it. I don't know. Accept it, leave it. Don't say, this hadith must be wrong. No, it is a big word. And I will say, this word must be wrong itself, not the hadith. So that is why not redundant or hadith redundant to our understanding, or arbitrarily say this is right, this is wrong. No, you go to a doctor if you, may Allah protect you. So somebody has a very serious disease. What does he do? Goes to a doctor. Doctor diagnosis is one type of disease and says this is the cure. And these people say, go to another doctor, check. It is serious, man. It is serious. Go. Okay. He goes to another doctor. He may say something else. Both of them are doctors. Are you a doctor? Are you a doctor? No. If you are not a doctor, so you have to choose one of them according to your qadar, in fact. You will say, this is more likely. Let me take the advice of this doctor. That is what in this position we are, in this position. Otherwise, we cannot really say that this doctor is wrong. No, you don't know. You are not an expert. Say, maybe in some cases, because human beings change, our capacity change. It may be a good source of guidance for a person whose capacity accepts it and confirms it and follows it, and this person will be following the prophetic tradition according to his capacity. But you couldn't do it, leave it. Don't say it cannot be correct. Come on. No, don't say this. That is what I understood from this principle, 10th principle, at the end. That was an excellent conclusion. Thank you very much. To my understanding only, yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other thoughts before we close for today, inshallah?
So I think moral of the discourse was pretty much don't criticize any hadith interpretation. Rather, if it fits your own personal criteria as well, then go for it. Nobody should have any say in anything. And I think that's what we need to spread the message of being open.
Yeah. Excellent conclusion. If you don't like the advice of a doctor, don't say this is a bad doctor. Say it is not for me. Thank you. Finish. But even we judge, we say because the other doctor said something else, so my judgment is not valid. Why? Because this is an expert, he said this, and I don't agree with it. Say, I don't agree with it. It is not good for me, but don't say this doctor is not, it means hadith authority in our example. This doctor is not a good doctor. No, don't pass judgment. That is what I understood from the 10th principle. That's an excellent conclusion. I really, really appreciated it.
Indeed, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, and if we think about it, that's like the most civilized way of living, even within the arena of education. That's how it is. People publish so many things on a topic, backing it up by so much theory and data. But at the end of the day, people are respectful to each other's findings and results. And if one author resonates with you, go for it. If not, then hey, that's not my cup of tea. And so also what I don't know much about what goes on in the hadith world, but from what I understand is like there is like a pretty much like a competition or debate about, oh, this is better because of this, and people get very emotional on things. I mean, from what I gathered, and maybe I've heard things here and there, so maybe that's the whole matter in a nutshell.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so we'll continue next time, inshallah, from the 11th principle. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا على الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سورة الفاتحة.